I feel like every single time Dana White, announces a 5-round fight and it's a flyweight top 15, I am very excited. And the fight always ends up delivering. It's always a 5-round war between these two flyweights who are in the top 15. Now, I think flyweight doesn't get a lot of credit just because of the fact of the reigning champion right now. We have Alexandre Pantoja, who is seriously up there for one of the best flyweights we've ever seen. I think there's only two people you can really name, and it's him, DJ, and then maybe Henry Cejudo, but I wouldn't really agree with any of that. His iron chin, his ability to grapple, his ability to strike. I mean, overall in a 5-round event, he has a very good ability to read the fight and know when to change his levels from a double leg or a single leg to then being a blitzing striker. Pantoja overall has just brought a breath of dominance in this flyweight division that no one can really match. However, everybody in this top 15 is dangerous, and Pantoja's chin is otherworldly, but we've always seen it get cracked at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if the list I'm about to say from now on are people who may catch Pantoja, who are maybe the next title holders of this belt. And when you get to this Pantoja level, when you get to this world title aspiration, a new title holder is very interesting in this division, because you have guys like Brandon Royval, who is a scrappy 5-round fight, who is never going to get tired. He's always going to give you something to defend, and everything is thrown with conviction. Everything is thrown with ill intent. We've seen the spinning back elbow to Kai Kara-France while he was hurt. We've also seen the scrambles, his ability to just have a dogfight, and a lot of people can't really match that. Guys like Tatsuro, Taira, guys like Brandon Moreno just could not do that in a 5-round fight, where Brandon Royval in 5 rounds can look really good on judges' eyes. This guy can definitely win a fight against Pantoja from a close decision, but can also catch Pantoja. He can definitely be one of these guys to hurt this almighty champion. The next guy I'm talking about is Brandon Moreno, who arguably is another world title holder. This guy can definitely beat Pantoja, although we have seen it, time and time again that Pantoja keeps having this guy's number. Brandon Moreno keeps showing new wrinkles in his game. We saw in his Steve Erceg fight his ability to constantly move around and show different looks to Steve Erceg while striking. I do think a lot of Brandon Moreno's flaws comes in his 2nd to 3rd to 4th round decision making. I think he's really good to start off in those first 2 rounds where he's able to really spring into his punches and hurt people. However, when the 3rd and 4th start coming around, he has this weird tendency to really ease into a fight and kind of give up rounds. We've seen in moments against Brandon Royval where someone was able to kick it back up into 3rd gear and win the 4th and 5th and win a decision against Brandon Moreno, which I think a lot of people can do if Brandon Moreno doesn't start, wanting to change up certain things. I think certain things like wrestling, or at least giving a threat of a takedown, could really open up things in Brandon Moreno's game that can overtop these top 15 flyweights. Now, in my opinion, I think a very slept-on fighter is Kai Kara-France. I think he is so good at his close-range boxing and his ability to get into the pocket against these longer-range fighters. We've seen in fights like Steve Erceg, where Steve Erceg got caught in a straight line moving backwards, and Kai Kara-France has such a good ability of switching between southpaw and orthodox stances to get the knockout. Each punch he lands is with so much power that it's very difficult to see a fight where Kai Kara-France isn't landing clean on you. Not to mention, though, that he's shown signs of takedown defense that's honestly extraordinary. Guys like Askar Askarov, who, if this guy was in the division, is also a killer. However, he did retire, but his wrestling was top-notch. Kai Kara-France, although he did get controlled at some moments, he did show great signs of defending and constantly scrambling. And so when you talk about Pantoja, or you talk about these other wrestlers in the division, you have a short, stocky boxer who can constantly put your lights out and constantly defend takedowns. However, I think my big con for Kai Kara-France is honestly the biggest con to a whole gym in city kickboxing, which is just the overall volume. They don't throw enough. They don't have the judges constantly having to check on the offense and constantly having to be reminded of how offensive they are. A lot of times these CKB guys are people who you kind of have to remember the punches they landed in the fight. You can't really remember a lot of the offense because it's so selective. We have a guy in Amir Albazi who has great wrestling, great striking, although we have seen his flaws, which is, I mean, the overwhelming talent that we have in this division. In my personal opinion, I don't think he beat Taira France. And against Brandon Moreno, we did see signs of his striking defense having a lot of flaws, which is his lateral movement and his ability to move backwards. He moves in a straight line backwards, which Brandon Moreno was able to catch beautifully. However, these flyweights are so young. Amir Albazi is someone that can develop into something new and can develop into something that can be kind of revolutionized in this flyweight division. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 to 3 years down the line we are looking at a new and reformed Amir Albazi who is well balanced but also has the defense and the experience that we have seen him in these 5-round affairs. Now I want to talk about 2 fighters, and I don't want anyone to think I'm grouping them, but I'm talking about Tatsuro Taira and Kai Asakura because I do think they are revolutionizing the game of Japanese MMA, but in different ways. Kai Asakura is the kickboxing Japanese fighting that we have seen rule all over the kickboxing scene up in Asia, where it's this on the back foot, faster than you, constantly throwing these big one shots that can really change the momentum of a fight. Kai Asakura has such good footwork and such good creativity that, I mean, it's very rare to see someone be able to control him as well as Pantoja did. I think he can put on a really scrappy affair against these top 15 guys. And same with Taira, but in a completely different sense. Tatsuro Taira has fantastic grappling, and his ability to, be creative on the ground is kind of the same as Kai Asakura, just standing up. He has such unique abilities to get to your back and such unique scrambling abilities that we haven't really seen before. However, these guys have been bested by the best of these flyweights. Tatsuro Taira against Brandon Royval, who just got into a scrappy affair, and Kai Asakura, who obviously fought the champion. We haven't seen much of him. Manel Kape is my next guy, and I want to emphasize that I think his biggest con is just not fighting. This guy is constantly pulling out of affairs and constantly not having these flyweight fights that everyone is so excited to watch. However, his striking is so unique, and his ability to be flowy and then pounce out of nowhere. It's pretty extraordinary to see a flyweight move so much quicker than other flyweights. However, he also has very inconsistent output. Same with Kai France. And so I'm kind of starting to build these building blocks of how interesting this flyweight division can be matched up. Everybody can be paired up with a striker or a grappler, and you can kind of expect a 5-round affair. We have guys who are in the division who we haven't really seen much of in terms of fighting these higher level competitions. Steve Erceg comes to mind in terms of these young prospects getting these veteran level experience who can possibly come back in a couple years and be a redefining person. However, there is one flyweight that I want to talk about who's coming up into the ranks who is, in my opinion, different from the pack. I think he is really going to a different level in terms of his ability and how young he is. I am, of course, talking about Joshua Van, and honestly, who is the dark horse of these prospects coming out of flyweight. Let's start off with the fact that he's 23 years old. It's incredible the amount of competition he's faced. Guys like Edgar Chayes, Ray Saruya. He's also fought Cody Durden. He had a wonderful fight against Cody Durden. His boxing is extraordinary, and his takedown defense is starting to get there. It was something that was needing to be put on the back burner for it because his striking was so good. Now he has really developed his takedown defense to new levels against Ray Saruya. We've seen Ray Saruya really dominate people in these scrambles, and Joshua Van had a great ability of neglecting that. And I think that's another thing. He is so young that I think when he starts getting these experience in 2 to 3 years, we are looking at a flyweight champion, in my opinion. However, there is a lot of other prospects in this flyweight division too, like Turimanov, the Kyrgyzstan little ball of energy that he is. Charles Johnson rings to mind. Tim Elliott. I think flyweight is at a point where you can really match anyone with anybody, and it's either a 3 or 5 round best fight on the card, or one of the best fights on the card. And to think that Dana White made the grandiose trade of Demetrious Johnson and Ben Askren, to think that Demetrious Johnson could be in this division and possibly be reigning or being in this top 15, although he recently retired, he would still be reigning this division if UFC kept giving him a call. I think that tells you how talented these flyweights are, and I think a lot of respect needs to be put on these flyweights' name. Let me know what you guys think about the flyweights. Let me know how you guys feel about the weight class in general. Would you guys want to see other, reviews of how talented other divisions are? Because we have the 145, 135, 155. I mean, the list can go on and on of how good these divisions are. We are really at a golden age of UFC in terms of the skill set that we're seeing. It's been Santi. It's been Studs.